Ric Flair once envisioned a life away from the noise of the arena, moving toward a ranch dream built on space, control, and stability. Over time, that vision became reality inside his southern estate home, where the spirit of ranch living blends naturally with old-school luxury and quiet confidence. The mansion conveys a sense of steadiness and seclusion, surrounded by wide stretches of green grass. This is where the lifestyle of the legend known as the Nature Boy is lived at its own rhythm. And now, we step inside the estate home to explore the life of Ric Flair and understand the journey that shaped one of the greatest legends in the history of professional wrestling. Ric Flair was born in Memphis in 1949, then adopted so early that his life began with a new name and a new family. His adoptive father was finishing medical training, so home moved with the schedule, shifting from place to place before the family finally settled in Edina, Minnesota. That gave him stability on paper, but it also taught him something quieter. Belonging is not always handed to you. Sometimes you build it. And that need to claim his own space would later show up in the way he carried himself. At Wayland Academy in Wisconsin, Ric Flair found structure through competition. Wrestling, football, and track gave him discipline and taught him how to operate under pressure, how to stay visible, and how to fight for position. For a brief period, his path appeared conventional. He enrolled at the University of Minnesota with plans to study medicine, following his adoptive father's profession. But the routine felt restrictive. The risk was missing. He left before finishing, choosing uncertainty over security. Wrestling entered his life through the Vachon brothers, who introduced him to a world where performance carried consequences. Flair made his professional debut in December 1972, stepping into a business that demanded identity as much as strength. The early years were demanding and unglamorous. He trained relentlessly, traveled constantly, and worked first under Vern Gagne in Minneapolis before relocating to Charlotte, North Carolina. That move proved decisive. In Jim Crockett Promotions, Flair found the space and audience his instincts required. Success came through refinement rather than dominance. Flair learned how to pace a match, control a crowd, and turn excess into intention. By 1981, he captured his first NWA World Heavyweight Championship. From there, his career extended across promotions and eras, including NWA, WCW, TNA, and later WWE. He remained central not by chasing relevance, but because the industry continued to revolve around his presence. Major events became familiar territory: Starrcade, WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble in 1992. Over time, Flair accumulated championships and recognition, becoming a 16-time world champion. Yet longevity came from adaptability. He shifted personas and eras without losing authority. By the time his in-ring career slowed, Ric Flair was no longer simply competing. He had become a reference point, a standard. By the time the pace finally slowed, Ric Flair had already lived several careers in one lifetime. What remained was not a collection of titles, but a presence shaped by risk, control, and reinvention. He was no longer defined by the ring, but by what he left behind. A standard set through endurance, not spectacle. After understanding Ric Flair's career journey, I invite you to return to his southern estate and explore how he has found peace in this chapter of his life. Mansion Southern in Charlotte, where sunlight filters through tall, ancient trees and settles across a quiet green lawn, a large mansion gradually comes into view. This is where Ric Flair lives today. Set on a calm corner lot in Charlotte, North Carolina, the house does not compete for attention. It holds its ground instead. The approach is wide, the proportions deliberate, the surroundings open and balanced. Spread across nearly 5,000 square feet over 2 levels, the mansion feels established rather than expansive, built with the intention to last. From the outside, its presence is steady and contained, shaped more by permanence than display. Inside, the structure reveals its character through detail rather than scale. Handcrafted woodwork defines transitions between rooms. Carved archways soften movement, allowing the house to unfold gradually rather than all at once. Vaulted ceilings lift the interior without exaggeration, giving each space enough air to feel composed. Nothing presses inward. The house maintains a quiet sense of control. Light plays an organizing role throughout the interior. Large windows draw the outdoors inside, creating a constant visual connection to the surrounding lawn and trees. The effect is grounding. Rooms remain aware of their setting, never sealed off from it. The main living areas flow with intention, connected without being exposed. There is openness, but also structure. The living room faces the backyard, prioritizing view over ornament, with greenery replacing decoration. This is where Ric Flair slows down with his family, where conversations linger and time stretches without agenda. The space encourages stillness rather than movement, presence rather than performance. Nothing here feels staged. It feels inhabited. A room designed not to impress, but to let ordinary moments unfold at their own pace. At the center of the home, the kitchen supports daily rhythm. It is bright and practical, anchored by quartz countertops and warm cabinetry. Natural light fills the space, making it functional without feeling utilitarian. From here, the house feels most active. Mornings begin here. Evenings slow here. The kitchen opens directly into the living area, reinforcing continuity instead of separation. The primary bedroom sits on the ground floor, chosen for comfort rather than hierarchy. Its position reflects a preference for ease and privacy. Views return again to the yard and trees beyond, maintaining the home's outward focus. The adjoining bathroom follows the same logic. It is spacious and controlled, designed for recovery rather than impression. Light is filtered, surfaces are understated, and the atmosphere encourages rest. Upstairs, 3 additional bedrooms each include ensuite bathrooms, providing independence without isolation. These rooms feel complete but flexible. Nearby, multi-purpose spaces allow the house to adapt. They can shift roles as life does, without forcing a single identity. The upper level feels open to change, yet anchored by consistent design. Outside, the backyard completes the composition. Wide, flat, and deliberately uncluttered, it becomes the space where Ric Flair spends unstructured time with his family. There is room to walk together, to pause without reason, to sit quietly as the day unfolds. Sunlight moves freely across the lawn, and the trees mark the boundary without closing it in. The yard asks for nothing. It simply allows moments to happen naturally when they are needed. This southern estate no longer carries the noise that once surrounded Ric Flair. House reflects a quieter order, where control replaces motion and routine softens urgency. Nothing here needs to be proven. The house allows time to slow, not as an escape from the world, but as a deliberate way of staying within it. From the steadiness of his southern estate in Charlotte, we now move south to a Florida home Ric Flair purchased during his years of competition, shaped by travel and an active career. Home in Florida. Florida entered Ric Flair's life at a time when everything moved quickly and very little stayed still. This Tampa home was purchased while he was still competing, when rest had to be scheduled and recovery was simply part of the work. The house was never meant to impress or announce anything. It existed for a simpler purpose: to receive him between departures, to let his body settle briefly before it had to move again. That intention becomes clear once you step inside. Light moves easily through the space, drawing the outdoors inward and softening the structure of the house. The living room opens toward the yard, not as a design statement, but as a quiet decision. Green replaces ornament. The room fills with air and calm rather than objects. This is where Ric Flair sits with his family, where conversations unfold without urgency, and silence feels natural, not empty. Time slows here, without needing permission. The kitchen sits close by, steady and unpretentious. It carries the memory of early mornings and measured routines, of meals prepared with purpose rather than indulgence. Even now, as the pace of life has eased, the room remains grounded. Nothing reaches for attention. Everything works as it should. It supports the day quietly, without asking to be noticed. There is a space in the house that speaks most clearly about why this home was chosen. A flexible room used for training holds the imprint of discipline, not the kind meant for display, but the kind built through repetition. Stretching, recovery, maintenance. Long after the noise faded elsewhere, this room continued its role. No applause, just habit, carried forward day after day. The primary bedroom sits apart from that movement, intentionally removed. Calm settles in easily here. Light enters gently, never demanding focus. This room is not about escape, but about restoration. The bathroom follows the same tone, open and uncluttered, designed to reset the body rather than impress the eye. Outside, the backyard completes the house without competing with it. Wide, flat, and open, it offers space without instruction. Sunlight moves slowly across the lawn. Trees mark the edges softly, providing privacy without closing the world off. Nothing here insists on activity. It simply allows it. Today, this Florida home no longer serves a life in constant motion. It marks a pause. The structure remains unchanged, but the rhythm has slowed. What once supported momentum now allows calm. This house does not define who Ric Flair is today, but it helped him slow down enough to reach it. Leaving the quiet of his Florida home, we follow Ric Flair to the cars that reveal his rhythm, choices, and presence. Car collection. Ric Flair spends much of his everyday life behind the wheel of a BMW 7 Series. It's a sedan that moves quietly and stays out of the way. Everything about it is designed for steadiness, the way it glides down the road, the calm inside the cabin, the sense that nothing needs to be rushed. With a current market value of around $30,000, the BMW fits a life built on routine and reliability. It doesn't recall past glory or try to project something new. It simply carries Ric Flair through ordinary days with consistency and ease. Nearby, there is Ric Flair's Porsche Cayenne, a vehicle that brings a slightly different kind of movement into his everyday life. The higher driving position and solid construction give him a sense of confidence without being showy. It is practical, powerful, and flexible, well-suited to days when he needs to travel longer distances or stay focused for extended periods. Currently valued at around $45,000, the Cayenne reflects balance. There is strength in the way it moves, but that strength remains controlled. A car suits a man who understands his limits and chooses to live within them. The Rolls-Royce Phantom belongs to Ric Flair's past rather than his daily life. Heavy, unmistakable, and once valued at well over $100,000, it comes from a chapter when luxury followed him almost without effort. Back then, excess felt natural, even expected. Today, the Phantom is no longer a choice he lives with, but a reference he understands. It doesn't shape his present, yet it quietly explains the height he once reached, during a louder, more demanding, and very different phase of his life. None of these cars try to carry Ric Flair back to who he was. Each one accepts where he stands now. Movement has become selective and intentional, less about arrival, more about continuity. What matters isn't how fast the road opens, but how steadily it can be traveled without losing balance. Next, we see how Ric Flair manages income, responsibility, and financial reality in the life he lives today. Income and net worth. Ric Flair spent most of his career earning at full volume. Wrestling brought steady money, constant bookings, and a persona that generated income wherever he went. But the lifestyle that came with it consumed just as much. Today, his net worth stands at around $500,000, shaped less by decline than by decades of spending, obligations, and pressure that gradually narrowed what once felt endless. Beginning in the early 1990s, tax issues followed him closely. By 2000, unpaid taxes resulted in an IRS lien exceeding $870,000, and by 2005, his WWE earnings were being garnished. Later filings revealed continued tax debt between 2016 and 2018, totaling roughly $280,000 owed to federal and state authorities. Then came health. In 2019, a medical emergency led to heart surgery and a reported $1.8 million medical bill not covered by insurance, an expense that redefined what stability meant. That same year, Ric Flair publicly acknowledged another weight, nearly $500,000 in debt tied to his son's rehabilitation costs. Help arrived from unexpected places, including longtime rival Hulk Hogan, turning financial strain into a moment of reconciliation. Income still exists today, but it flows differently. Appearances with WWE legends, media work, and limited engagements replace the massive contracts of earlier decades. The focus is no longer expansion, but maintenance. Bills get paid, obligations get managed. What remains is carefully guarded. Ric Flair's financial story is not one of collapse, but of adjustment. After 4 decades at full volume, money became something to control rather than chase. The net worth may be modest, but it carries the weight of endurance. A life still standing after the cost of living large finally came due. And once survival becomes the priority, the question shifts naturally to what still gets shared, how Ric Flair chooses to give, even when resources are no longer abundant. Philanthropy. For Ric Flair, generosity never arrived as a chapter to be announced. It slipped in between obligations, crises, and moments when help felt necessary rather than optional. Over the years, Ric Flair has repeatedly appeared at fundraising events for children facing life-threatening illness, most notably those connected to Make-A-Wish. He did not arrive as a donor with a headline check. He arrived as presence. Through appearances, private visits, and event participation, these efforts are estimated to have raised approximately $75,000 over time. Money gathered quietly, without formal ownership. Another path of giving came through objects rather than statements. Robes worn during championship runs, signed memorabilia, and personal items were placed into charity auctions. Individual events typically generated between $20,000 and $40,000, and across multiple auctions, total funds raised are estimated at around $120,000. In these moments, memory became currency, and legacy turned into immediate relief. Health changed the tone. Following his cardiac emergency in 2019, Ric Flair became involved in hospital and medical fundraising connected to heart care and emergency treatment. These were not national campaigns, but local efforts shaped by proximity and experience. The estimated total raised through these appearances stands at approximately $50,000. Some contributions never entered public schedules. Financial strain surrounding his son's rehabilitation pushed Ric Flair toward quieter forms of support. Assistance to recovery programs and individuals battling addiction came directly and privately. Based on disclosed debt figures and related support, this category of giving is estimated at roughly $150,000, spread across several years and carried without recognition. Inside the wrestling world, help often arrived without notice. Younger performers and families facing medical or financial crises received short-term assistance, covering expenses, bridging gaps, easing immediate pressure. These gestures accumulated slowly, reaching an estimated $35,000 over time. Ric Flair doesn't treat giving as a gesture or a statement. It happens naturally, in moments when he recognizes himself in someone else's situation. And when those moments end, Ric Flair returns to a quieter life shaped by routine, family, and time away from the public eye. Personal life. Today, Ric Flair lives at a different pace, still active, still visible, but far more grounded than the life he once led. Retirement didn't slow him down as much as it reorganized his priorities. At 76, his days now begin with routine rather than adrenaline. Training remains part of that structure. He still lifts weights, still pushes his body not to prove anything, but to keep it working. Strength for him has become maintenance. Much of his present life revolves around business. Flair Spirits, his personal alcohol brand, keeps him moving across cities and events. Promotion is hands-on. He shows up, signs bottles, talks to people, repeats the process. The schedule is busy, sometimes relentless, but it's familiar. This is work he controls, work that doesn't demand reinvention, only presence. Between appearances, Ric Flair reconnects with the parts of wrestling that feel personal rather than performative. He spends time with longtime friends from the industry, shared meals, casual trips, quiet reunions that don't require an audience. These moments are less about nostalgia than continuity. Wrestling is no longer the center of his life, but it remains part of his circle. Family sits at the core of everything now. His wife travels alongside him, sharing holidays, events, and the spaces in between. Time is divided carefully between commitments and the people who matter most. Visits to Orlando, where his daughter Charlotte Flair lives and works, carry particular weight. There, the legend fades into something simpler, a father showing up, present and unguarded. Ric Flair's life today isn't defined by what he's left behind, but by what he's chosen to keep. Structure, movement, family, purpose without excess. The volume has lowered, but the rhythm remains steady, and for the first time in decades, it belongs entirely to him. Write "woo" in the comments if you felt this quieter side of Ric Flair. Subscribe Chanel and turn on notifications, because in the next episode, we step into another legend's life, far from the arena and closer to who they really are.